Today's webisode is a long overdue, long awaited Q&A. But first, let me give out a couple of congratulations. Congratulations goes out to the New York Giants for being the new Super Bowl champions and making history while preventing history from being made. And I also want to give a big congratulations to Frank Mir on his win by tap out of Brock Lesnar at the last UFC pay-per-view. Now that congratulations are out of the way, let's go on with the Q&A. Why don't I do a star ratings? Am I opposed to them? Well, MMA wrestle fan, I'm not opposed to them. They just aren't for me. When I come and review shows or when I come and review matches, I'm going off of what I can remember, what was memorable to me. Was I generally and genuinely entertained by the match, by the show, so on and so forth. And a star ratings for me just doesn't really quite apply to the kind of review that I'm trying to do. Ring of Edwin, you want to know what I thought of ROH's Undeniable. For the most part, it was a solid show. I've talked about the particulars. I talked about how I felt the main event didn't deliver. But it was a solid show. But as always, I have certain issues. RoderickStrong asks what the problem is for me. Is it no selling or overselling? And I gotta go with no selling. It can kill a move. It can kill a match. I want to believe, and as I've traveled, I've seen fans, they want to believe that what we're doing out there is very real. They want to get wrapped up in the moment. They want to get wrapped up in the match. They want to get wrapped up in the show. And no selling can kill that. I know of instances where I've watched a match, and when selling's not done properly and the match gets off, I stop being wrapped up in it. And then all of a sudden, I'm going from not just losing interest in the match, I could lose interest in the performer himself. So, no selling really can kill it. It kills the appreciation for the moves and for what we do out there. And it makes it look like it's choreographed. And I don't really like that. I want people to believe that it's real. When I go out there, I'm giving you all that I've got. And I want people to appreciate that. And selling plays a part in that. And it also plays a part in the storytelling. And man, I'm always down for a good story. Kenobi wanted to know my opinion of the CM Punk Joe trilogy. Well, I'd have to go back, but I'll say it like this. It was a very memorable time. It put ROH on the map in large part because those guys were so high up on the indie scene. They were such recognizable names. And that ROH title was an important part of that. And it put ROH on the map. It would have been great to watch on TV. Could you imagine those guys going at it now? My all-time favorite matches, and that's pretty hard. I don't have an all-time favorite match. I've got like a top 5, top 10, and even a top 20, top 30. I mean, it generally changes depending on my mood. I mean, I can talk about Steamboat and Macho Man from WrestleMania 3. I can talk about Austin Rock from WrestleMania 19. I can talk about Daniels and Styles in their 30-minute Iron Man match from a pay-per-view that slips my mind. I can talk about Ric Flair, Kerry Von Erich at the David Von Erich Memorial. I mean, the list goes on, and it actually gives me an idea for one of my next videos. So be on the lookout for that. TraciPeteyforlife wanted my thoughts on the Rumble. And now that it's passed and everybody's kind of given the review, I'll give mine. And this will be brief because the next set of questions actually talks about WWE. I will say that I didn't get any TNA questions. So I only got ROH and WWE. I did like the Rumble, TraciPeteyforlife. I did like it for the most part. There were some forgettable moments, some moments I'd rather not ever think of again, and some head-scratching moments. Cena coming back was a shock. But then I just lost interest at the very end. Once he came out, it was pretty predictable. It was going to either be him or Triple H. Really didn't matter. And that's not taken away from anybody in particular. I just wasn't too wrapped up in the final moments of the Rumble. But it kind of ties into the next couple of questions, like I said before. Was it a solid show? Yeah, it was one of the better pay-per-views so far of this year, and one of the better pay-per-views that WWE's done. But there you go. Newt 123, 2001 wanted to know what my issues with WWE storytelling was. And I'll go into kind of, as it relates to the Rumble, that way you get even further, more in-depth analysis. I'll begin it by saying this. When I watch a show, I want to be wrapped up in it. I want to be wrapped up in the drama. I want to mark out. Yeah, I said it. I want to mark out. I want matches, angles, and storylines and shows to be memorable and give me a reason to tune in. So with that, here are a couple of the issues I have. At ECW got the Chavo Punk thing. I think it's been overdone before it could really get started. It's made kind of the title match commonplace, or the opportunity. I mean, those guys wrestle like 5 or 6 times in a row, and their thing's going to continue. And in my opinion, if it's for a title, it should have been on the Rumble, especially the ECW title. I don't really care about the reasons and whys and hows and what they were thinking. I think they just dropped the ball. There was no reason that match should have been built up better, and built up towards the Rumble. And speaking of the ECW title, what is it with the champion being in the Rumble? It didn't really make sense. They could have easily done something different, and it would have made the title and the match and the feud more memorable. Another thing, Colin Delaney. I'm not getting into him. I get his name because they mention it so much. But I don't have sympathy for the guy. He just gets beat up every week for no reason. No rhyme or reason. I think they're trying to do the Mikey Whipwreck treatment with him. They're going to bring in Dreamer to be kind of that Mick Foley character. But I'm still not really getting into it. Sorry. On SmackDown, you got the Edge, Mysterio, Guerrero thing. I think that's pretty solid. And up until Friday, I thought the Palumbo, Noble, Michelle McCool thing was pretty decent. And then Friday just kind of, I don't know, it kind of threw it off a little bit. But aside from that, there's really no reason for me to tune in. I mean, some of the wrestling's decent, but for the most part, there's no real sense of drama. There's no real sense of, hey, come watch this show, other than out of habit. I thought they had a very good thing with the tag team titles with Miz and Morrison versus Jimmy Wang Yang and Shannon Moore, but then they dropped it, and I really didn't understand that, because I thought that was a third thing and a third reason to tune in. But they don't want to seem to keep that feud going, so there you go. In the midst of all this, the Tatter Demillion 2 asked why I didn't comment about the Y2J JBL feud. And the reason I probably didn't comment on it is because 2 weeks prior to the Rumble, it kind of lost its steam. The match was very good, and I really, really enjoyed the match, and I look forward to the feud continuing if, in fact, it does continue. But there was a couple weeks where Jericho wasn't there because of injury, and then JBL wasn't there because of a previous engagement. So, there you go. I thought, speaking of the Rumble, I thought Orton and Hardy actually had a very good build-up. Very good sense of drama. This is where a situation where the writers seem to have gotten it right. They played on both guys' strengths and delivered a pretty quality match. But then it fell flat. And I think in part it fell flat because of Hardy. Hardy didn't really change his entrance. He didn't really change his game. You didn't really see passion in him. You didn't see him get upset. You didn't see him get angry. Which is what needed to happen. He needed to have that sense of that he really wanted to go after the title and that this was his opportunity, and I don't think he really put across that. And that's where people felt it was a predictable match and that he had no chance of winning, because he didn't come out any different than he normally did. There have been plenty of other storylines. These are just a few issues. I mean, the bottom line and what it boils down to this, at times it isn't necessarily just the writers or the agents or the bookers. It also is the talent. Can the talent execute what's being written? So there you go. Newt 123 2001 also wanted to know what my personal goals for 2008 as far as wrestling goes and personal plans. I just want to continue to have fun out there when I go out there. I want to try to get on some other indies. I want to make a big name for myself in PWA, get seen by WWE or TNA, and then as far as this channel goes, just get to a wider audience and make it an entertaining show and try new things that I haven't tried yet. So there you go.